Welcome to this week's meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. We'll get started with the national anthem. Please remain standing for the invocation delivered by House Heats.
Let's pray. Our dear and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come out of a beautiful weekend of Thanksgiving and activity, just filled up with a thankfulness of what we have and who you are and what the possibilities are. As we meet this day today and this holiday month, may we be filled with just a great amount of joy in spite of the challenges that go on, and give us a hope that Rotary, in our small little way, in our local club and its connection to worldwide organizations seeking peace among all the rancor that goes on and that we see every day on the news. Will you just give us a sense of positive outlook, that there is a hope, that we believe that you are working out your will for the good of all. So please bless this food and this fellowship. Bless our speaker. May his words bring wisdom to us as we move into a political season that might drive us crazy. But Lord, guide and direct our hands as we pull the levers and just work in this great land of ours where we can be free and enjoy the freedoms that have been fought so hard around the world. And we think about those that have sacrificed their lives and continue to sacrifice their lives so that we might live in freedom. Lord, we thank you for that as well. I pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
You may be seated. I'll now call forward Jennifer Harding. Jennifer is with the Spring Valley Rotary Club. She has an announcement for us.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday after Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday, because I have so much to be thankful for. And I thank you for allowing me to be here to spread Spring Valley nuts with you. And if you know anyone from the Spring Valley Rotary Club, we have lots of nuts. So I'm trying to get rid of all those today. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is our Spring Valley pecan sales. We sell Young's pecans. We're the only place that you can get Young's pecans here in town this year. They don't have a retail store. So if you would like to purchase some, I'll be here today and after the meeting, and also next week. All kind of pecans, chocolate covered, candy coated, plain pecans. And this is our way of raising money for the community. We give back over $50,000 that we raise annually through our campaign. 100% of the proceeds go to nonprofit organizations that you all love. Sister Care, Alzheimer, Reese Across America, Ronald McDonald House, Harvest Hope, Salvation Army, and many others. So please help support Spring Valley Rotary with purchasing some pecans. They make great gifts, great corporate gifts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for being here today. I'll now welcome to the microphone Catherine Davis to introduce visiting Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to recognize first our visiting Rotarians. We have Jim Hudson from Columbia East. Welcome, Jim. I know you're here. We also have Stuart Harvin. Stuart, also from East Columbia. Thanks for being here. And from the 5 Points Club, we have Alicia Connors. You're a guest of Alicia, I apologize then. Georgette Sandiford. Georgette, I'm so used to seeing you at the hospital, I'm just thinking you're one of us. Okay, I apologize. Thanks and welcome for getting that corrected. Georgette, it's great to see you. She's from the 5 Points Club. And also we have Joel Collins from the Lake Murray Irmo Club. Joel? And I think finally we have Ashley Wilkerson from the Main Street Rotary Club. Ashley, there's Ashley. So glad you're here. And Rotarians with guests today, please stand.
I'm Roy McCrory, and I have 2 guests, please stand. I have the mother of our speaker, Katon Dawson, Gretchen Dawson, here, right here, and my wife of many years, Frazier McCrory.
I'm Harry Jeffcoat with First Community Bank, and my guest today is Kevin Adams. Kevin's a longtime employee of the bank, but recently joined our Columbia commercial team. Kevin Adams.
I'm Adam Jordan. I'm honored to have as my guest today Mike Coble with Total Comfort Solutions.
Catherine, I was told by Bob Crutchfield I have to limit my introduction to 15 minutes. So let me first introduce somebody you might know, Catherine, Jim Griffin, who is a lawyer here in Columbia, a terrific lawyer who recently formed a partnership with somebody. Can you remind me?
Clarence Davis.
Clarence Davis, exactly. So it's Clarence Davis's partner. They just opened up a brand new law office. So,
This is Rita Halverson with Staples.
That's it. Well, once again, welcome everyone. We're so glad you're here and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Catherine. Let me remind you all to put some money in the cart bucket. If someone from each table would take the opportunity to hold the blue bucket up in the air, that's a reminder to all of you to put some money in that bucket. All the money that goes in there is used for Alzheimer's research. So greatly appreciate your support. I'll now call on Robert Goings to come forward with Health and Happiness.
Thank you, President Mark, and good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. I am presenting our Health and Happiness. I have 2 health notes. One, John Folsom fell over the weekend, and I understand he's in the hospital, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Secondly, the South Carolina football team, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. They played quite admirably this week. But hats off really to Coach Sean Elliott. What a man of honor, character, and passion. In similar vein, happiness. Big shout out goes to the Clemson Tigers. I mean, come on. Number 1 in the nation. And I think we all agree that Coach Sweeney and that football team really do represent our fine state very well, so good job, Clemson Tigers. Joseph James, where are you, Joseph? 52nd birthday today. Happy birthday. David Anderson, I understand that he has won the Charles L. Claflin Award for Excellence in Pension and Health Benefits Administration. It's only awarded 4 times every 4 years by the United Methodist Church. So congratulations, David. Jim Reynolds, he's not here today with us, but Jim and his wife are celebrating today their 41st wedding anniversary. So congratulations, Jim. Rhonda Hutzinger says that on December the 8th, the South Carolina Philharmonic will be having a concert. It's called the Concert for Columbia at the Koger Center. It's a tribute to all first responders and those who helped with the flood relief disaster efforts. And a portion will be donated to the Central Carolinas Community Foundation for their ongoing efforts with flood relief. Amy Beth Franks has announced that there's an event in 5 Points called Paint 5 Points this Thursday, 6:30 at the Gourmet Shop. Help 5 Points celebrate their centennial by joining them for an event of champagne, sushi, caviar, and a chance to bid on one-of-a-kind paintings by Columbia's most elite artists. Tickets are $75 and they're available online. Also, 5 Points annual holiday event, A Starry Night, is this Thursday from 4 to 8. The event is free, family friendly. You can expect complimentary horse carriage rides, dancing performances, choral performances by the Benedict Choir and Shandon Baptist, and a chance to see Santa, along with specials in place with all your favorite local retailers. Parking is free in the State Garage on the 9th Street. Carrie Powers, who is the CEO of the Greater Irmo Chamber of Commerce, their organization is having an oyster roast this Thursday at Pine Island, 5:30 to 7:30. 5:30 to 7:30 this Thursday, Pine Island. Tickets are $10. Great oysters, hot dogs, beer, wine. Talk to Carrie if you're interested in coming. We've been advertising the Columbia Rotary Holiday Party. I want to again remind every one of you to put this very important event on your calendar. It is going to be at the USC Alumni Center in the Vista. Now, if you have not been to the USC Alumni Center, what a first-class location this is. I mean, what a wonderful place. This will be a great opportunity for you to come and check it out. Parking's going to be very easy. In fact, I would say a little bit easier than parking at Seawells, because all you have to do is get into the parking garage, go to the second floor, there'll be some ushers there, and you're within feet of the presidential dining room. And there we will have great food, libations, and Southern Way is catering. There'll be a lot to toast over. So please make sure you come. There's been several Rotarians that have agreed to sponsor this event. Mark with Wells Fargo, and Hal with Grace Outdoors, and Jesse Bullard with Southern Way. As you look around though, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Raise your hand if you've got a Christmas tree up in the house. Nice. Starting to deck the halls. And as I was coming back this weekend from Thanksgiving, a song came on the radio. And this is it. Sing with me. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look in the fine tin, glistening once again, with candy canes and silver lanes aglow. Sing with me. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door. A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben. Dolls that will talk and go for a walk is the hope of Janice and Jen. And Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. There's a tree in the Grand Hotel, one in the park as well. The sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start, and the thing that makes them ring is the carols that you'll sing right within your heart. Merry Christmas!
Nice job, Robert. You are fearless, absolutely fearless. Jack Sloan, where are you? Jack, come forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody, we've got about 12 or 15 slots left in bell ringing for Salvation Army. As we all know, they do the most good. You need to fill those slots if you can sign up today, okay? Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call Heather Smith forward. Heather has an announcement about next Monday with the Suitcase Initiative. She's going to tell you all about it.
Thank you, guys. Just wanted to show you an example of what was delivered today. This is a suitcase donation, and written on it has 2 toothbrushes, toothpaste, and 3 t-shirts identified for the child that this is going to. Not to put you guys under any pressure, but WLTX will be here filming on next Monday. But to help you guys out, I've already purchased 265 suitcases that will be here on a truck, so we can give those to Katrina's kids. And so the foster family can go ahead, all the foster families can get those suitcases and coats and clothes and goodies that we get for the children. So if anybody cannot be here December 7th, but wants to donate, my office is 1404 Gervais Street. I'm always collecting suitcases.
Thank you, Heather. So next Monday, bring a suitcase. All right, I'll now call forward John Bakes, President-elect John Bakes, who has a special presentation for us.
A couple of years ago, Ann Matthews, who's Senior Vice President of Rotary International at the time, said she wanted Rotary clubs all across the country, but particularly in her hometown of Columbia, to support feeding the hungry. And so your club decided we would both put some money behind an effort to help Harvest Hope Food Bank, but we also decided to put some people power behind it. And so we did a couple things, and this was last Rotary year. We donated $1,000 for capital gifts or for capital equipment for Harvest Hope. They needed some hand trucks, little 2-wheel dolly things, so we bought several 2-wheel dolly for them with $1,000. Then we spent $4,000 in packing food that was shipped out to the needy folks in Fairfield County. And we had a lot of fun. We had several packing events. Folks showed up, had a great time, and we packed a lot of boxes. And we had so much fun doing that, we felt like we did some good, so the board decided to do that again this year. And we have assembled through our money and through a matching grant, matching district grant, we've assembled another $5,000. And today, we'd like to present that to Denise Holland, the Executive Director of Harvest Hope Food Bank, and Jones DeVos, one of our members, who's Board Chairman of Harvest Hope Food Bank. So I want to present the two of you with this check, and we have already done one food packing, so this check's a little bit in arrears. We've already packed 250 or 300 boxes of food. We've already committed a donation to some more capital equipment this year, and I'm hoping we can do one more packing before the year's over. Everybody likes the packing thing, right? I mean, those of you who come. Let's see some hands. And I want to recognize Lane William. Lane, stand up. Lane has organized our packing events, and thank you for doing that. And he saw that the food got to Fairfield County. He followed it up there. He didn't want it to go astray, so he handled that. But thank you, Lane, and thank all of you volunteers who helped us pack.
Well, first of all, thank you so very much. This is a great blessing to us as we have provided 2.2 million meals, food and water equal to 2.2 million meals during the flood. And that was above and beyond what our normal distribution has been. Last week, the 3 days before Thanksgiving, in just our 3 emergency food pantries, we fed gave families food to equal 2,700 families we saw last week. So your support is tremendous. You are a great role model for all the other Rotary clubs around, and we thank you very much for what you provided. This gift provides us with 25,000 meals, so thank you very much for what you do for us. The volunteer time is absolutely wonderful. The gifts of fun and the gifts of food, those are very much appreciated, and you're a huge blessing to people that you will never know, so thank you.
All right, did you get a picture?
I got one.
You did? Okay. All right.
Okay, we'll now transition to the program today. I'd like to call forward Lieutenant Governor Henry McMaster.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here to introduce my longtime friend, Katon Dawson. I noticed Ms. Dawson has been recognized. I'd like Katon Jr. to stand. Take a look. Katon Jr. is getting ready to go to work for a prestigious law firm. He just finished 2 years with one of our Court of Appeals judges, and before that graduated at the top of his class at Washington and Lee and USC in law and MBA. Stand up, brother, and take a look. That's what the future of America is. Sister is in New York City, where she left Credit Suisse recently to make Katon and Candy a grandparents, and that's been accomplished about a year ago. It really is a great family, and I had the pleasure of growing up with them out on Spring Lake Road. But that's Katon the man. The main Katon that all of you know about is Katon in politics. Katon is a true national figure and leader of the same scope as other South Carolinians that you know about, Harry Dent, Lee Atwater, and Don Fowler. He's been on every television station and cable station there is, commenting on things. He's worked on numerous campaigns, presidential campaigns. He's been the senior advisor of Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry, as well as others. He's helped just about everybody get elected in South Carolina. In fact, during the 7 years he was president for three separate terms, he won, of the candidates he recruited, won over 80%, which is probably a world's record, and accounts largely for the strength of the Republican Party in South Carolina. He's worked with Tim Scott, with Nick Haley, Tim Scott, I mentioned Jeff Duncan, Attorney General Bob Livingston, Nick Chase, as well as all sorts of local candidates, and has made a big difference. One thing that Katon has taught all of us in politics is that it's all about money. Is there anybody here that Katon has not asked for money? Because he goes by the same rule a lot of others do, and that is that there are 2 kinds of political candidates. 2. Those who are willing to ask for money, and losers. So feel complimented when you get a call from Katon. He also, in Dawson Public Affairs, it's a full-service consulting, public policy, political campaign, and corporate issues firm. He's very successful. He's known all around the country. He came just this close to getting elected out of the Republican Party as national chairman. And we wonder what might have been, but it's looking good, and it's not near over, and we're glad to have him here alive and healthy. This is a true political superstar and business leader, Katon Dawson.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be here. Henry, first I want to thank you for that kind introduction, but second of all, thank you for what you've done for the state. Attorney General for 8 years, a Lieutenant Governor who has reestablished that office with character and integrity. It runs just as slick as a white train could run, and Henry, my success was your success. I told him we were sitting down, we figured out between the 2 of us, we raised about $42 million in the 17 years we were both chairman. He was first and I was second. And it's true, I told Henry, for the longest time, I couldn't eat anywhere because when I'd sit down, everybody moved away from me for fear I had to spend money. But it is what it is, and it was a wonderful experience being chairman, especially following Henry, who had led the groundwork of understanding what it was in South Carolina to come from a neighborhood that there were about 3 families there, the McMasters, the Dawsons, and maybe one more that were Republicans, and I can't really name the one more, Henry. But it is great fun being here. I see my mother's here, my son's here, my car dealer Jim Hudson's here. When I look around the office, I see numerous people I grew up with, and I want to try to do a little different than a political speech and try to set the stage for what you're going to see in politics this year. The seriousness of it, what's happening nationwide, what's happening in South Carolina. So first I'd like to focus on what it takes to win the South Carolina primary, and I'm going to give you a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, because what I do for a living now has a lot to do with math. It has a lot to do with theory, and it's not what you see on TV and what you see from candidates. They're usually good organizations working behind them. We spend a lot of money, but things have changed drastically in politics, especially in South Carolina. The total population of South Carolina is 4.8 million. Total registered voters able to vote is 2.7 million, which is not even half that vote. In 2012, we had a South Carolina primary with a pretty good turnout. And Newt Gingrich had 243,000 votes. He actually won that the last week of the race. Mitt Romney had 167,000 votes. I want to fast forward back to 2008 and tell you the difference. In 2008, Henry will understand this, in 2008 it was raining, it was cold, we had Bush fatigue, Obama excitement. John McCain won our primary and went on to win the nomination with 143,000 votes. That's amazing. You think of a state with 4.8 million, 2.7, and that's the first year in modern history that the Democrats had overvoted us in a primary, which at the Republican Party caused us a lot of concern. We had 9 sheriffs on the ballots. We had local officials all over everywhere. The 9 sheriffs mostly had switched parties from the Democrat to the Republican. We had promised to hold their seats, so when we saw those numbers, there was a lot of concern. It all turned out well, but I'm trying to drive the point home today that not as many people vote as you think. Not as many people will control the destiny of our country as you would think, especially in this early process in South Carolina that started in 1980 when we had our first primary, which was Ronald Reagan. The importance of our primary this year will be, you've got Iowa, it's a caucus, you've got New Hampshire, and then you've got South Carolina, which usually corrects all the mistakes that the first 2 made. When you look at the absurdity of what I call Iowa, New Hampshire, Iowa has a caucus with a total number of voters of 121,000. New Hampshire has an election where they're registered by party, which we are not, and Mitt Romney won New Hampshire with 97,000 votes. So when you start parting down, this is a Republican Party event that the hardcore go to, and it'll make you understand what you're seeing now with Trump, Carson, and those figures, and I'll unpack that a little later on. But once you understand the small numbers, Iowa, which by the way, and Henry will know this, Republicans have won Iowa once in the past 7 presidential elections. Once. New Hampshire, Republicans have won 1 New Hampshire race in the general election since 1988. So I always wonder why we have 2 that go ahead of us that have delivered the vote year in and year out, year in and year out, very consistently with a lot of electoral votes. But it is part of the process, and it's why South Carolina is so drastically important in this process. Because what we do in South Carolina, John McCain will attest to it, Newt Gingrich will attest to it, what we do when you win a South Carolina primary is your conservative credentials are then checked off. People trust South Carolina Republicans to nominate the right person. They're vetted, whether it be gymnasiums, street corners, and it's a fascinating process when you see the governor of Texas for 14 years going to Dairy Queen. 5 Guys hamburgers. Listen to people of what their concerns are. And I think it's what makes a wonderful part of the democracy. There's a lot of things that have changed that you've seen right now. After our primary, and why it's so important is the money that's in politics. This will be one that after our primary, most everybody's going to be broke. They're going to head into these states, which is Super Tuesday, which means we're going to have a nominee a lot earlier than we've ever had. They're heading into Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado's a caucus, Georgia, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, and Virginia, all on the same day. South Carolina will punch 2 or 3 tickets out of here, and it'll be a 3-person or 2-person race. I would contend that after that we're well on our way to an early nomination, which is good for our party to a point financially, but there's not a candidate out there that's going to be able to afford to buy those states. Just buying Texas is a $20 million process of buying 2.5 weeks of television. So the momentum they get out of here will probably be worth 50 to 60 million to the winner. And remember, the winner is not in a runoff. The winner is the one who's going to get, in my opinion, 165,000 votes. That's probably the winner. 31, 32, 33%. It'll depend on how many come here. So that's why you're seeing the activity here. That's why you're seeing them campaign here. Because a lot of them's political careers will end in South Carolina and 2 or 3 will move on. The thing that I notice when I hear the concern about our candidates and what you're seeing now and the poll numbers, there's one thing that'll matter this cycle that I'd give you the heads up and take a look. A lot of times in South Carolina, we as Republicans control every statewide office, supermajority in the House, close to a supermajority in the Senate with Governor McMaster leading it, and we have a lot of Republicans. But this year, this cycle, and we have one of our own friends, Lindsey Graham, running. And Lindsey is going to try to do well in New Hampshire, but if he doesn't, these are the endorsements to watch for that the whole country will be holding their breath for. And they all come from sort of different segments of the Republican Party. They're looking for Nikki Haley's endorsement. She'll endorse. It'll be important. They're looking for Henry McMaster's endorsement. Henry knows the Republican base as well as anybody in South Carolina is trusted. Look at the Vote County guy's lieutenant governor. Ran twice for Attorney General, unopposed the second time. That endorsement's going to matter. Tim Scott, beloved figure in Republican Party politics. People all over the country are tired of me talking about the only African-American Republican senator. We have that. We have Nikki Haley, the youngest Indian-American governor. We have a diverse party here that they don't have a lot of places. And then you're going to watch Lindsey Graham, what he does. So when you look at those endorsements, you'll be able to throw all those polls out the window. And in 2012, 44% of the voting Republicans were undecided 8 days out from our election. So that's a benchmark to watch when they drop, watch when somebody breaks Henry's arm. Watch what happens as these endorsements come, because they will be national endorsements. They won't just be South Carolina endorsements. And that means a lot to us, because I think we're going to have a winner and a chance to beat Hillary. And that means a lot to our state. One of the things that's changed drastically in politics now is super PACs. 503c4s, C3s, call them what you want. The laws and the rules have all changed. It was a thing called for you lawyers, Citizens United versus the FEC, which was the Supreme Court. That created for folks like me the wild, wild west of politics. Again, good, bad, or indifferent. That opened up in the guise of free speech, what we call soft money, which are billionaires. I have a few that are friends. They contribute. They're smart. They didn't get their money because they were stupid, but they believe in America. They're also on the left side too. But that's changed the way we run campaigns, modern campaigns, and it will change in the next cycle in South Carolina, because I think what people don't realize is there's no longer state super PACs in South Carolina. When the Supreme Court ruled free speech, you no longer have to have a super PAC in South Carolina for a state race. You have nonprofits now, and we form and close those things just as fast as the wind in our business now. And that is another way that campaigns are being funded that you don't see. There are federal super PACs that report to the Federal Elections Commission, and that's where the donors are disclosed. They're disclosed on the quarter. The Federal Elections Commission watches over it. They're big fines, but that's where you can give unlimited donations. Corporate individual, and that's what's probably hurt the parties the most, because when Henry and I used to get a lot of money that come through the parties, it was the only place to give it. Now there are multiple places to give it with different controls. The FEC controls a 527 super PAC, and you can see it. The IRS controls the 50C3s and 50C4s. And those are different because the 503C4s, the donors are anonymous. They're on a form called 990D that you can't see, and they have laws that can put you in jail and fine you, but those are operating right now in South Carolina. Some of the ads you see right now in the presidential race are about 503C4s. All kind of rules, all kind of lawyers involved. That's what's changed the political process, good, bad, or indifferent. But it has brought multitudes of money into the process and a tremendous amount of money into South Carolina, a tremendous amount. So that's what you're going to see, and you're seeing being spent now. The winner of these primaries in South Carolina is going to be WIS, WLO, WYFF, the state paper, the printers. I mean, the economic activity is going to move in here. The Democrats aren't having much of a race. We're going to have a big one. And they're going to spend a lot of money, because look what you win when you win here. You can buy our state for about $305,000 if you're a campaign. It'll get you a week's worth of television, where each one of you here probably have seen it 8 times. And 8 times what it takes to burn it in. Think about Texas, which is $10 million. Think about Florida, which is $8 million. So the investment they're going to make here is sort of the last ditch stand of every candidate. And coming in out of New Hampshire will matter, but and I think Henry, you'll agree, New Hampshire's winner never has mattered that much to South Carolina. I mean, it comes and it goes, it wins the field, but it gives you a little bit of a jump start. But George Bush, 43, lost New Hampshire and came in and won the presidency in South Carolina. Newt Gingrich came in 4th place in New Hampshire and won South Carolina. So a lot of the things you hear now that'll educate you on is polls. And you hear all kind of poll numbers right now. They come out, the one I tell you to watch is usually the USA Today when it gets closer. Watch the Gallup poll. That's one that doesn't always have a dog in the fight, and the questions are pretty fair. But as you hear the poll numbers that move, I was in the field for a corporate client that I represent in the energy space, asking South Carolina about spent nuclear rods, and I had another client who wanted to pay to find out whether they were ready to enter with their money in the presidential race. These were the results before, 2 days before the terrorist attack in France. It shows you how quick things can change. And this was very interesting. This was on a Wednesday and Thursday night results, and we were 2/3 of the way through with the poll. The number that changed was Donald Trump in South Carolina was, when we polled 6-8 weeks ago, was in the low 30s. The week before the terrorist act, Trump had dropped to 21. Carson had come up to 20. Rubio was at 20. Cruz 11, Huckabee 4, Bush 3, Lindsey 2. So those numbers, and we weren't all the way through the process, and then the news cycle changed. And the people were paying attention. So we went back in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to finish running, and the numbers changed back. Trump went to 25. Now, mind you, he had dropped from the 30s to 25. Carson went to 19, and he had been as high as 24 at one time. Rubio was the one that was moving. Rubio was 20 earlier. And then Rubio moved back down to 13, which was realistic. Doesn't mean it was bad for him. It means he had moved up. Cruz went up 13. So he jumped up 2 more points. Huckabee went to 2, and Bush went to 7. Here were the numbers in a poll that would have been devastating for Jeb Bush. Our poll 2/3 of the way through, and the Wall Street Journal was willing to print it. If we'd have printed that Jeb Bush was at 3, it close to would have ended his campaign. Would have been fair, but it was a true number until we went back in to take a look. And once the dialogue changed, once it changed, correct, Trump gained some points, but Jeb Bush came back up to 7. Huckabee was the loser down at 2. But it shows you how fast these things can change, because that was really a 72-hour period where people came in and said, you know, I think I'll change my mind. Now, mind you, when we push all these people, 44% will say I can change my mind or make my mind up. That's what South Carolina will do. That's why those endorsements matter. About 2 weeks before the South Carolina elections, when you're going to watch it start moving, I would contend that it'll still be undecided. We'll still have 6 candidates maybe in the race. The endorsements will start flowing. The organization will start flowing. You'll see the political power of Henry McMaster, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, our 6 congressmen. You'll see that political power and influence. I will give you some numbers here to show you how Newt Gingrich changed the race in 2012. Newt Gingrich, for a year that I worked for him, talked about the Democrat Party was the party of food stamps and the Republican Party was the party of paychecks. And I heard it about 100 times. And he would lay out the difference in philosophies. It was a good political campaign. And then Newt would lay out the numbers on food stamps. There are 49 million Americans on food stamps now, 48 million. 40.2% are white, 25.7% are black, 10.3% are Hispanic, and Asian 2.1%. He used that criteria in a debate on Tuesday night when they attacked him of it being racial. And Newt Gingrich came back with these numbers and said this is not, it's a philosophy. And South Carolina heard it and rewarded him with the vote. And what you're seeing the candidates do now is what Newt did, if you remember in 2012. On the Thursday night CNN debate, or Friday night, they attacked him for having 3 wives and what his second wife had said. And Newt turned it back on the media and won 44 of 46 counties. And he was sitting at 4th place 2 weeks before the race. So don't discount anybody that you like. Trying to jump on the bandwagon with the winner is going to be hard this time. But those are statistics. Let me share with you the states that are going to matter. There are really about 7 states that are going to name the next president. As much as you think we've got 50 and everybody voting, it's Florida, 29 electoral votes. Virginia, 13 electoral votes. New Hampshire with 4. I know 4 electoral votes don't matter, but New Hampshire swings back and forth. Iowa, 6 electoral votes. Ohio's a big one, 18 electoral votes. Colorado, 9 electoral votes. And Nevada, 6 electoral votes. Those are the states to watch and add North Carolina to it. Because North Carolina, we only won by 1.2%, while Governor McCrory in North Carolina won by a 21% margin, to show you how national elections matter and how the climate changes. When I give you those numbers, I want to break the population down to tell you where I've been doing on TV. The United States has 321 million total population, not including illegal immigrants, which is probably 22 million. White, 79.96. Hispanic, 15.1. Black, 12.85. Asian, 4.3. American Indian and Alaskan Native, less than 1%. When you break those numbers down and come back to that Hispanic number, you're going to find that Florida, Colorado, and Nevada will hinge on that number. So our nominee is going to have to be like George W. Bush was. He's going to have to be right with the Hispanic population. If not, you're not going to get Florida, Colorado, Nevada, and our race is over. North Carolina also has one of the largest. So, in a snapshot, as you're looking at the big picture, keep watching the USA. Those polls in a couple of these states will give you, if you like politics like we like football, it'll give you a good hint of the math of what's coming and how this is ebbing and flowing. And it shows you, when I gave you the other statistics, is how every vote matters. Everyone counts. The new elected message right now has become terrorism. And that showed in this last poll. Now, I would contend it's going to move back to jobs and the economy as it always does. But for right now, there's fear out there, and rightfully so. This was a quote that was put up in Russia that I found interesting to show you how social media can change a race. This was given, supposedly credited to President Putin. And it said, out of his Russia Today news anchor, Remy Malevich, found the quote, put it out on Facebook to 1,300,000 United States followers within a couple of hours, and it said, to forgive the terrorists is up to God. To send them to him is up to me. That was his quote. Wasn't his quote. He never said that. But his numbers among the American public came up. Well, man, Putin's okay. Shows you how fast a false statement is cute. And we liked it, and I saw it. And then once I got it fact-checked, it wasn't him. It was somebody they corrected it, was never heard. So that gives you a breakdown of how fast the social media is working right now. And in the world of terror of what we all know about. Let me give you some other statistics that I find extremely interesting when we look at the war on terror. The United States, as I said, has 321 million people. Russia, I think everybody forgets, we talk about the old Soviet Union. is down to 142 million and decreases by 3 million a year. They have a population problem. China, 1.3 billion, and I'm not sure they can count them all. Iran, this is a frightening statistic. Iran, 81 million, almost as big as Germany. Iraq, 37 million. Turkey, 79 million. Israel, 8 million. Libya, 6.2 million. Lebanon, not as big as South Carolina, 4.5 million. You're looking at two of our biggest allies there, Lebanon and Israel. You're looking at the populations and you're looking at what we're facing down here in these numbers. Syria is one on everybody's mind right now that I find frightening. 16.6 million Syrians in 2015. Before the conflict, there were 22 million Syrians. 4 million registered refugees now, 1 million unregistered refugees. 7 million Syrians are internally displaced and have had to leave their homes. More than half of the country's population has moved since the conflict began. Nighttime electric usage has fallen 80% in Syria, which means people cannot afford or do not have electricity at night because the grid shut down. 250,000 people have died in Syria, killed by their own government. Here are the active military statistics that should make us feel comfortable for a brief minute. The United States has 1.36 million. China, 2.285 million. India, 1.36 million. North Korea. Army in North Korea has 1.19 million people. Russia, 766,000. ISIS or ISIL, however you want to call it, has between 60 and 80,000 people. That's what we have, but it's a different war. And if you want to really educate yourself on a war, General McChrystal has written a book on modern warfare. I found it extremely interesting to read, especially if you're a businessman, to address what we have to do in the new war. I'll move from that statistic to something that all matters to us. The United States, nuclear weapon statistics, nuclear warheads. I asked this question to a lot of people. The United States has 7,650 active nuclear warheads. Russia, 8,420. United Kingdom, 225. France, 300. China, 240. India, 90. Pakistan, 110. North Korea, fewer than 10. Israel, 80. Iran, none today. I tell you that story, and I'll start to close and wrap up. I do MSNBC. I've done it for 5 years, and I do it about 1 weekend a month in New York. And the nice thing is only 12 Republicans have ever seen me. It's not a well-watched Republican station, but it's been a wonderful experience to me. And to have what they call the green room is not green, it's brown. And you go sit, and 6, 7 months ago, I was sitting in the green room with this nice young lady who was probably just a little older than me, and we were having a conversation, and I hadn't read who was going to be on with me that day. And we started talking about how we grew up. And she was from Russia, and I was from South Carolina. And I mentioned to her how I grew up and who I was, and I was a Republican, and I'm on MSNBC, and she's a college professor of philosophy, born in Russia, very well educated, and a very nice person. And so we started talking, and I said, you know, the thing that drives me home is I never liked Russians. She said, well, you know, I never liked Americans. And I said, I remember, you know, succinctly from 1st grade through 6th grade, I remember twice a week crawling under my desk, putting my hands over my head on an airway warning. And I told her I laughed. I said, I think, what were they thinking? That a nuclear bomb wasn't going to get us underneath this little 4x4 desk? Or was the government trying to scare us? And it's interesting, she looked at me, and as we were talking, and she looked at me, and she said, well, I'm from Russia. And she said, we did it every day. And drove it home a little bit. I said, really? We did it every day. Y'all might have done it 2 days, but we did it every day. And she said, we were talking, and I talked about I was Cuban Missile Crisis was young. She said, do you remember John F. Kennedy? I said, I remember when they killed him. He was assassinated because my school got out that day early. I watched my principal cry and take the flag down at my elementary school, so I do remember it. And I read about the Cuban Missile Crisis. She said, well, yeah, we know about that too. And as we drove the point home, we're talking about this, talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis, talking about leadership, talking about where we are in the world today, and she was trying to, I think she thought maybe I could talk to President Obama. I don't know. But she said, you know, you Americans are not dealing with Putin right. She said, you're not dealing with Russian mentality right. You can't make it personal with these people. And I kept wondering, how does she know all this? And then when we already closed it, about time to go to the show, I said, well, why are y'all so scared in Russia every day? Because we didn't like you. She said, y'all use the bomb. We only have them. And that was her point. You use the bomb, and we only have them. I get on TV, and I look, and I've had this wonderful conversation. We passed emails and stuff, and I look, and up comes her name on TV, sitting in her grandfather's lap in the Kremlin, and this is Nikita Khrushchev's granddaughter. Nina Khrushchev, who, as she told me, the minute he lost the presidency, or whatever they call it in Russia, he shipped them all to America. Because she told me they all would have been killed instantly. So that's how his family moved to America. But I always remember the instant story is, you used them. We just have them. So when you watch this whole world evolve in this terrorism thing, know that we are from a country that what we do matters, what we say matters, how we conduct ourselves matters. We are from a country that how our military and the strength matters. It matters that Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott in the United States Senate, and that our congressmen, all 7 of them, represent us. It matters. Who we elect matters. And what we say and what you say to your neighbors and your friends and family matters. Every election is always the most important, so don't buy that noise. They're all important. This cycle is going to be a lot more. Big things at stake. President Obama I think, has some real challenges on his way out. So you'll know if you're good Republicans, I'm going to make you feel a lot better right now. During President Obama's presidency, he's given the Republican Party a tremendous gift. We have gained 13 United States Senate seats and control the U.S. Senate by a slim margin. 66 seats we've gained in the United States House. Pretty good margin there. This is a big number that Henry Master understands. 31 governors, which means redistricting, which means how we draw the lines. We have gained under President Obama 913 House and Senate seats. 913. That's a gain. We now have 68 total bodies in America, either they're Republican, they're Senate or Houses or Republican. We basically had 38 when he came in. We've increased 30 of those. So the Republican Party in the states is alive and well, about a 60% majority. The national election is going to be sitting there. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tenuous. I give you all the numbers because I try to inform people of the statistics of how important we are in the world right now. How important what America says matters. When you look at 250,000 people dead in Syria, you look at that small population of 8 million in Israel, 4.6 million in Lebanon. You look at these numbers of where the world is, Iran with almost 80 million people, almost the size of Germany. And you look at these, and the fact is we're willing to replicate what we did in North Korea with the nuclear weapons in Iran. And you look at all this and you start trying to figure out where are we going to be. And then you think, well, we got 7,600 nuclear weapons. Well, it doesn't take but about 3 of them. But we built them up during the Cold War. Russia's got 8 million of them. So you ought to be scared when you see what Pakistan has. That number ought to scare you. And that's an aging population. So again, it's a pleasure being here, a privilege. I'm going to give you the good news and the bad news. I'm going to finish with the 13 worst cliches in politics. So when you hear these, you're going to know that these people are in trouble. The only poll that matters is the one on election day. Boy, mark him off. I'm overwhelmed by the encouragement I've been getting to run. Let me tell you about that one. Yeah. The encouragement comes from your mother, your daddy, your preacher, and your neighbor. My name may be on the ballot, but this election is about you. Woo-wee. Okay. That's a doozy. It's all going to come down to turnout, then you know it's a sure loser. I don't look at polling. I'll never forget I had two politicians tell me, I don't look at polling, I was running polls for both of them. It is what it is. That's on your way out the door. We have the strongest grassroots organization. That'll be a sign for you. I believe it, but you never tell anybody you have one. I mean, that's given the other side. I won't engage in hypotheticals. That'll happen all day today with every presidential candidate. Courtesy of Trump, and lately he deals with them daily. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Every politician says it because they run out of material. Plenty of ballots are left to be counted. That's when you know you've lost at 7 o'clock. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's because they're lagging way behind. With all due respect, my friend, and you can just fill in the blank whatever they're going to say, because that means, guess what, I ain't getting enough votes. The last one that Henry and I know is when a candidate gets up and says money isn't everything. Boy, you know you got a sure loser then. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure, it's a privilege to be here. It was a privilege to be the chairman for 7.5 years and have followed Henry McMaster. And we live in some serious times where our faith matters, what we stand for matters, what we say in our community matters, how we conduct ourselves as Americans matter. Lindsey Graham will tell you the war on terror is alive and well. And it's going to come to all neighborhoods and all kinds. We're lucky to live in this wonderful place called South Carolina, where people care about each other, where we can talk to politicians on the other side of the aisle. I'm glad we're in control, but we can still have conversations. So do what you're supposed to do. Make sure you vote for somebody. I gave you the numbers of how many people don't vote. And that's what Rusty DePass, myself, Henry, and everybody that's worked in this party continues to tell people. And don't talk to us and complain unless you voted. And we know who votes. We don't know how you vote, but we know who votes. So it's important. And again, thank you for what you do in our community. Thank you for being Rotarians. Thank you for listening to me for 30 minutes. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Great job. In closing, I have a couple of announcements. I'll ask President-elect John Bakes to tell us what's coming up.
Next week, we have a Hammond Select Ensemble, and a singing group is going to come entertain us, and they are excellent. They are really, really good. Those of you who heard them know and appreciate that fact. They are going to start at 12:30. For class schedule reasons, they have to come and start right at 12:30. So I encourage you to bring your suitcase and get here by 12:30 next week so you can hear the performance. They'll sing for about half an hour and then they'll be gone. But you will certainly enjoy it. And the TV station is going to be here, remember. They're going to record how many suitcases we carry out to the truck. So we hope that you'll bring a suitcase with you with a little gift inside or several little gifts inside. Thank you for your support of Harvest Hope and our suitcase project and many other things that we do together. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Elliot Powell has an announcement real quick as we're closing.
Some of you may have outdated badges. Some of you may be new members and have not received your badges. If you will meet me at the piano afterwards, we'll try to get all that straight, get your badges all ship shape.
Great. Let's stand and sing.